Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Football 360 show. Coming at you live on YouTube as well as X. And of course, you can catch all things Football 360 show on Joe. I can't hear myself in my headphones. So, can't hear myself. So,
I'll take over,
coming at you
JP.
live. You there, Matt?
I got you.
You got me. Okay, I'll just keep talking, and then but as long as I can hear myself here, and
You're
I can
good.
hear you, then we're good. I think. So you good?
Yep, I'm good. Yeah, I think
I can
there's
hear
the
you.
sound. I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
There you go. No, I got you. No, I got you. We are so dedicated that we try to do it from beaches. We try to do it from beach houses. We do it without microphones, without
With
audio.
microphones, you name it.
With microphones, you name it. But we're here, vacation time of year. Last week, I did the little pop up from the beach. Of course, my down in Alabama, down in Gulf Shores. This week, you're down there. We were supposed to do a show together down there, but we got the dates mixed up. And
I know. Next year we'll have to coordinate. Usually that dead week is such a strange year this year. It seemed a little late. I mean, they're going to have 1 week of practice, and most everybody's starting school the following week. So kids kind of luck out and getting 1 week or 2 days, I guess.
right. It's pretty cool. But it's cool that it's here. I mean, we're right in the throes of stuff. College football practice is in full bloom already. Mizzou just had their scrimmage the other day. A lot of local guys that we can talk about who are doing well, who are moving up the ranks. Guys that we're really familiar with, which is really cool to see.
There's a heavy influence of St. Louis guys on that Mizzou team.
Oh man, absolutely. And I know everybody. We've talked about it before. How everybody loves the recruiting class and loves the guys who are from Alabama or Florida or this. But when you look at the guys who are moving up the ranks and the guys who are going to be the ones who are really the stalwarts, making the team go, it's St. Louis guys, Kansas City guys. Just guys from around the state.
All across the board, and it's good because I think if you look at any major Division I school, the Power Four guys, most of their solid core of their teams are made up their home region, if you will, right? So they're controlling their region and getting the top talent, right? Obviously, we lose kids, as we have a lot of visibility because we lose kids constantly. That we thought would have gone to Mizzou and they go elsewhere. But the reality of it is that happens in other states as well. So, I think, but if you can keep that core group of kids and then they get there and perform, makes a huge difference.
Oh, without a doubt. And what's really interesting about Mizzou is and I think we've talked about it in the past on a show, when they're at their best, the stars, such as it is, are local kids. When you rattle off the big names that people will remember from Mizzou, at their peak, it's the Blaine Gabberts, the Jeremy Macklins, the Alden Smiths, Sheldon Richardsons, Charles Harris's, all those guys, and they've gone on to bright NFL futures. And you got guys like that. How about Cody Schrader? Speaking of another local guy, I'm sure you're following how he's doing with San Francisco.
Not a shock. I mean, it's the tough thing is it's always being an undrafted free agent, making those teams. I think people he's this or that, and next thing you know, he's in a dogfight where he's going to make the squad, right? So I think it's always difficult because I've read numerous articles where they talk about it's insurmountable. There's so many backs. How are they going to keep? Well, when you see coaches mentioning him in practice and you see guys talking about how well he's doing, and special teams will probably be how he earns his keep, I would assume. And knowing what he did at Mizzou when he was, a guy getting a lot of reps, he still was playing special teams.
Absolutely. And, he's a guy and he's doing it all up there. He's running the ball well. He's doing special teams. He's catching the ball well, for them. And I mean, he's a complete all-purpose back. And with a guy like the NFL, does NFL really have the 30 carry guys anymore?
No, their life cycles are so short now. I mean, it's you invest money in them, but you don't overinvest, right? I mean, granted, 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, arguably the most well-rounded back in the league.
Right.
But, Cody Schrader's a guy that comes in there and I think fits the mold. And I think that more than anything, when you have teams that are consistent winners like the 49ers. I saw a Juszczyk, who's considered the top fullback in the game / whatever they use him as, and he was talking about what a great fit Cody Schrader's been in their running back room.
Right.
And I think that speaks volumes about, because he's going to get there, he's going to work. And, it's funny. I saw a video the other day someone had posted, and Schrader goes out and he's the first guy on the practice field, right? And so the press caught on to it. And he's doing like a little warm up, and then like it just gets into like a little sprint. And of course, then you have the naysayers and some guys, dogging on him like, well, what was that? What kind of move was that? And it's like,
what a nerd.
One, he's out there early because he cares. Two, and this is a 49ers fan, that doesn't know the kid's name, but of course will be the first when gets a big carry in the game, wins the game for him. Then he's going to be the guy cheering for him. So I mean, that's just the fickleness of fandom, I guess. But
without a doubt.
He's doing a great thing there. He's out there. He's leading by example and earning his keep. And then you have people still talking smack, which, I guess comes with the territory.
It does come with the territory, but how great of a reflection is it on the scouts for the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
That they're able to get these guys, the McCaffreys, the other guy you just mentioned, Cody Schrader, picking him up as a free agent. And Cody, even if he doesn't stick with the 49ers, which I think there's a really good chance that he will, somebody else is going to look at that and give him another opportunity. Yeah, so he's going to have his opportunities.
That's the cool thing about, and I think it'll kind of bleed into what we're talking about with we keep talking about college football, but they have pro scouts, so people are watching every game, those joint practices, any film that's shared throughout the league. There's pro scouts scouting other people's players, which I think is really cool, and is a reason why people get into camps and stick in camps, and they get cut, and then they show up somewhere else next week because they have intel on these guys. And you may not be a great fit in one offense or defense, and then turn around and be an unbelievable fit in someone else's. But I'll give you a great story, JP. So a week ago Sunday, Justin Strong, who was one of our former Boom players, came in, had a workout. He worked out with Zach Abron, and he was a running back coming out of SIU. So great guy, played over at Althoff, had a really good career. It's one of these things where he had his career was good at SIU, but he was in the backfield with 3 or 4 other guys splitting carries, which, in college, you want to be that guy that's the premier back like Cody Schrader was, and to get a chance, right? He still was an undrafted free agent, right? I mean, so it's one of those things where, and he was an SEC leading running back. So, I mean, it just shows you the viewpoint of running backs these days in the league, but obviously they need them, and they want young guys, younger the better. So Justin had an unreal pro day. He's in the top 12 relative athletic scores, the RAS scores of all running backs to do pro days or combines since 1981 or 83, something like that. So his testing for his size and his abilities, he's like a 9.6 out of 10, which is outstanding. Yeah. So he spent a little bit of time with the Colts in a workout scenario, and then so he trained a week ago Sunday. His agent called me Monday, said, "Hey, I talked to the Seahawks and they're bringing him in." So he was there on Sunday. He left on Monday, and he was in Seattle that night for his physical and all that stuff. And last I heard, he's still there. So it can happen that fast. And so his goal, as any of these guys' goals is get reps, get valuable reps where they can get the eyes of other teams on them if they're not the fit that they're going to be on there, or get signed to the practice squad. So I think that's one of those things where it's just such a gamble, and you don't know until you're there, I guess, and you don't know how good the fit's going to be. And you see where the teams are already making cuts on guys, which is really difficult because, these people spend their entire lives training and developing, and then, you get there and you're just not a good fit. It might not be that you can't play. It's just that you're not a good fit.
Right. So, no, really, absolutely. And the guys who keep going like that, like Justin and Cody, it's that mindset. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They know how good they are. They know the time and the work that they've put in and what they've built themselves as a player and physically, and so they're going to keep taking that shot.
Yep.
And more times than not, or maybe that's not true, but a lot of the time that pays off, and you love to see it when it pays off. Now everybody wants to do it, right? So there's a lot of guys that do it or will attempt to do it or keep trying to do it, but there are just those few guys like Cody or Justin. Those guys, you got to like their chances.
Well, you do, and then those are the guys you want to get in the ring with you because they're guys that people have doubted. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
those are some of the most dangerous human beings you encounter are people that
Right.
thrive off other people's doubts. And I think, I think Brady Cook's a good example of that too. Everybody's, applauding him and this and that. We're talking about, the Cotton Bowl from last year, but let's not forget, even internally on their own staff and some of the things going on the previous 2 seasons, he was an underdog. He wasn't the guy. So that's why I think it's pretty neat to see the story came out of him because he's fought through all of it and now he's on the other side of it and he's got his coach cheering for him and all that. But there was a moment in time when it was in question whether or not he was the guy, right? And so, when you're not the guy, you're not the guy. And so that's the tough thing about it. And, it's really interesting to see how it unfolds. It was one of our guys who was a former guest, Michael Neese, who's with the Lions, was telling me, this past offseason, he had a really good offseason this spring with the OTAs, and he got a lot of reps with the ones, right? And because the starter was out hurt, and he said, he made the comment that he's like, look, in the NFL, and I think it's the same in college, it's probably the same in high school. If they invest a lot of time and energy in you and get those reps with the one team or the twos, your odds of sticking on that team and getting on the field are far greater because it's not like someone's just going to come out of the blue and take your job because they've invested time, energy, and money, and then they've earned a degree of trust. And he said, the problem is like you can kind of even screw up if you're in that position because then they'll go, well, yeah, he's just having a bad day, right?
Right.
Versus the guy who's coming up who doesn't have that leeway, you can't afford to have any bad days. And so I think guys, you have to earn that right. And if you're drafted, oftentimes that is your birthright, if you will, into the league.
Oh yeah.
Undrafted guys, it's just like a walk-on or a young freshman trying to get on the field. There's too much energy and time spent developing guys to let somebody just leapfrog them. And it's a trust factor, even though in some cases, oddly enough, that person might be better. And so, but I think it's tough for coaches to see that, right?
It really is. And that translates to the college game too. Like you said, you're a freshman coming in. If it's a heavily recruited guy, he's going to get that opportunity above somebody who is not as heavily recruited.
Correct.
Right? Because they've invested in that guy. And so they need him to pan out. The other guy they can take their time with because he's not going anywhere. He'll develop at his own pace. And eventually, if he is better, then that will just, that will take over. But it translates there. And something you talk about both with Michael and with Brady and it's something you guys do at Elite. You guys really are on it as far as the skills training, the physical development, everything like that. But something that's not really talked about a lot is the mental aspect. Talk a little bit about the mental aspect that you guys at Elite, because I get to watch it, I get to see it, right? But other people don't. Talk about the mental, training that I see your trainers,
Yeah, because I think there's
these guys
a multitude of ways you approach it, right? One is just being realistic about the task at hand, right? and teaching these guys, it's a mindset, right? More than anything, right? And the mindset is look, we're not going to worry about what's happened in the past, right? And whether good or bad, we're not going to worry about anything that's coming in the future. We're going to control right now. And so as an athlete, that's very empowering because when you're living in the now and you're taking care of your business, there's a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes from that is very, very good for the psychological makeup of an athlete. So it's like giving yourself credit for work done, if you will, right? And so you're not like you're resting on the fact that, hey, oh, I'm a good boy, I did my job today. It's more of, hey, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to accomplish my goals, right? So that's a mindset, and the mindset has to be supported by action. And if you don't support your mindset with action, then you're lying to yourself. And I think that's where a lot of athletes run into trouble. They do a lot of things and they put a lot of window dressing, but in the back of their mind, they know for a fact that they haven't done the work to support that. And so that is a very dangerous scenario to be in. You know, for example, you'll see kids that'll post a bunch of videos online about themselves doing X, Y, and Z, or posting a highlight of them catching, you know, a one-hand ball. Well, they don't show the 20 balls they dropped before that, right?
Right.
That's disingenuous because they're not a guy that consistently does that behavior. Yeah, they caught that one, but that's hardly a skill that they've mastered. And so in my mind, you know, we want to teach our athletes that, hey, you're only as good as what you're doing right now. Yes, the work that you've done in the past is going to lay a foundation, but that's there. That's done. No matter what, it's done. We can do nothing about the future if we don't control right now. And so I think if we spend that time with them, just talking them through the mental game, and then we do, you know, and then the other side of the mental game is getting the brain to synchronize with the game you're playing and the position you play. And I think there's that side as well, which, you know, a lot of kids don't truly understand the game of football. They play football, but they're not football players. And so our approach is going to be, you know, obviously you gain trust of your athlete. That's first and foremost. If they don't trust you and don't believe what you're saying, they're never going to listen to you, JP. They're just not going to do it. They're going to, you know, as young males, they're going to tell you, well, this is how I do it. This is what I do. Right. So, and believe me, I think that's the kiss of death of young athletes, is thinking that they know too much, right? And that, oh, I've done this. And in reality, most of them are probably 5 to 6 years in the game. And the first 3 or 4 years, they didn't even know what they were doing. You know, I mean, to give yourself credit for your elementary school years or middle school years of football is a gross mischaracterization of what football really is. And you know, that's no slight on junior football. I coach junior football. Right. But the truth of the matter is, most kids out there, one, are there just for fun to play a sport, learn a sport. Two, the synchronization and the choreography of the game at best is minimal, right? And so it typically comes down to who can synchronize a little bit better than the others, or who has the best athletes, right? And I think that a lot of times, you know, you look at that side of it, there's really good junior football players and they don't end up becoming really good, you know, varsity.
Right. Players. Yeah. There's a lot of former JFL greats that superstar status didn't translate well to the high school level or beyond.
Yeah, it happens. And I think that's the same thing. So if your mindset isn't correct coming out of middle school into high school, you're in for a rude awakening. And then if it's not coming out of high school going to college, you literally, your career could be over. And so I think that's where you got to get into a program where people know you and that they understand what your shortcomings are and how to get it out of you, right? Because all of us, you know, are trained and taught a certain way, and we react to certain stimulus a certain way. And, you know, there's some kids you could say something to them nowadays and they're just shut down physically, mentally, emotionally, like they just shut down. And so
take their ball and go home.
You know, and I think, JP, back to your original question about mental side of things, I think coaching someone hard but being fair is the best way to coach them, because if you're able to do that, they may not like it, right? They may think it's disrespectful towards them, and it's not, because you're helping them. You're trying to do bring the best out in them. But the funny thing is if they have not received that type of coaching or truth in their life, then the first time they encounter it is going to be earth-shattering, and it's going to probably send them down a path they don't want to go down. And so, you know, my opinion is that, you know, you got to be fair with guys. You have to know when to push and when not to push, but at the same time, and I think that's what our coaches do a really good job of it, because, you know, everybody builds a personal relationship. And that's what I would say, that, you know, the difference between what we do at elite and when my former, when I've coached high school football, it's a far more intimate environment when you're coaching in a private environment or a small group environment than a team, because, there's certain aspects of a team that you do not want to disrupt by, spending a little extra time with certain kids, because then it becomes favoritism, and then it becomes, detracting from, what the team goals are. And I think that's what's so neat about the private side of things, is that you can really develop those relationships. Guys open up to you. And in some regards, you're a counselor, right? And in many regards, I am a counselor first, a coach second. And I don't mean that like that there's a bunch of fragile people that, need therapy, but it's in the sense of you're getting to know them as an adolescent turning into a young male who is maturing. And there's problems that come in maturity, right? And there's things that happen. There's bad decisions that are made. There's decisions that need to be made. And I think that's the beautiful thing. That's why don't get me wrong, I love coaching football, like, the scheme and running offense and all that stuff. And I think that's really cool. But on the flip side, and I think a lot of people misunderstand it. I mean, there's a lot of people that will say, well, those guys, anybody can do what they're doing. But I would argue that's not the case, because, you have to be wired a certain way to want to spend time on the little things. And in the society we live in, most people are not wired to want to spend time on the little things. They're wired to spend time on the big things. And I would consider practicing in games the big things. And that's where the glory's at. There ain't much glory in watching someone throw a ball over and over and over, and then do it for 6-7 hours a day. There's not a lot of glory in that, right? Or watching someone block. I mean, like,
no, everybody wants to show up and play, right? But you don't want to put that time in practicing, whether it's, no matter what it is, whether it's, even with an instrument, right? Everybody wants to be a rock star, but they don't want to spend the hours or make it their life to, learn that instrument, or to be a vocalist or whatever.
Believe me, if you heard me sing or play an instrument, you would know that I put zero time in, and there'd be no talent to do it.
Right, but it doesn't make you not want to be that.
That's it. That's the thing, is every time you hear someone play really good guitar or sing, you're like, man, that'd be awesome to do. But then you realize, sure, those guys probably have some natural proclivity and gifts, right? But if they didn't work on it, like, it doesn't work. Like, and so I think that's the funny thing about it is, and to your point, I had someone tell me the other day, they were talking about some kids we had trained, and a coach had made a comment, oh, well, that kid's just a good athlete. He would have been good no matter if he did that or not. And it's highly disrespectful, because one, it's assuming that kid just naturally out of the womb knew how to play quarterback. I mean, sure, he's athletic, but the things that we've taught and worked on, I mean, I'll give you a real world example. Brady Cook the other day sends me a message. They're in training camp, right? Unprovoked, just like out of the clear blue, sends me a picture of him throwing the ball, and just said, hey, what do you think? And it was just a picture, not a video. And he wanted me to write back and go, oh, that looked really good, right? Because it did. It was really good. And he said, it's grooving. I'm feeling good. Everything we talked about the last 3 weeks is going great. My feet finally feel good. He's like, I'm just letting it fly. But he's like, my feet are getting anchored to the ground like we've been talking about. So to me, somebody could go, oh, well, Brady Cook, he's just, look at him. He's a Division I quarterback. He's so good. Well, here's the crazy thing, JP. Yes, he is. He is a really good athlete. But there's certain things he's done throughout his training and development that have allowed him to rise and get to a point where he's comfortable to do what he's doing and do it over and over and over, and do it at the SEC level and be one of the top guys in the country. But he's also the same guy who still is seeking information and seeking development, seeking to get better, because he understands to stay where he's at and go where he wants to go, he's going to have to get better and better and keep working on that. So I find it highly offensive and highly just misunderstanding of how the process works. And there are a lot of people that see what we would do on their scouting side and on our side of the skill development side, that would look at us and go, They don't know what they're doing. I mean, I could just do that. Well, the thing is, go try it, because I don't see a ton of guys doing an inordinate amount of skill development training in practice. And the reason I know that is I've been doing it for 25 years. I mean, kids come in, we have college and pro guys and high school kids and middle school kids. It's a class or a session. It's so good to get back to basics and learn about the game of football. And I think there's a primal instinct of most guys that want to do something and get better at it, to get back to the basics and the rudimentary form of why you're doing it and how to do it. And I think once you get to that point, then the mental side of it is believing that you can do it and resting assured that you've put the work in to do it. And I think as we get deeper into the season, you see those guys that have trained. You see those guys that developed. It's the same thing with the guys that work out in season, that lift, right? There's guys that work out and lift and do things the right way and take care of their body in season that finish better than when they started. And there's guys that literally camp is going to start Monday. They're not going to touch a weight till December. Yeah. And then they're going to wonder why they don't look good at the end of the year, right? And so that's a struggle. That's an education component. That's something that we need to pound the drum on, because a lot of teams do not have time built in for the kids to work out. They may have weightlifting class at school. They may not. And then the kids say to themselves, hey, I don't have time. I'm in season, and the parents, the brain shifts to it's in season. But why would you work out 8 or 9 months to let it rest for 3 or 4? You know what I mean? It makes no sense. So, we have a program I have told you 1,000 times about our off-season program, where you jump on the force plates. It gives you a specific workout plan. Look, if you don't have 45 minutes, 2 days to 3 days a week in season, you're practicing for 2 hours. You have 2 hours of homework. You got an hour to work out. It's priorities, right? And then you have enough time to get to sleep. In my mind, you become what you accept. And so if you accept mediocrity, you're going to become mediocre. If you're going to accept greatness and push yourself and get yourself out of your comfort zone, you're going to reach those goals. And whether people like you reaching those goals or not, you're going to reach them.
Well, it goes back to the whole mindset of how good you want to be. How good you want to be. And back to what you said about, somebody said, oh, he would be that whether he trained or not. That's not only is it offensive, but to you, but it's also inaccurate, because I've seen it, right? And I know right away who's trained and who has not trained. And so I've seen it firsthand for a lot of years, the guys who train versus the guys who don't train. And it's just not true, because there've been a lot of great athletes.
Yeah, JP,
a lot of great athletes who have played local high school football, wanting to be college guys. And the ones who don't train, they don't reach that same level. And if they do, they're usually not going to be at that position. They're just a good athlete that a college will take a chance at.
And we've seen it 1,000 times with that kid. There's guys that are coming in that are prepared. Talon Chandler is a great example. Yep. He's a guy who honed himself over the years. He started as a little kid. He tried all different positions. He was a linebacker. He was a tight end. And then we told him, in middle school, hey, you're going to be a lineman. And he fought it, but he loved it in the end. I read an article the other day where they were talking about surprise, freshmen. And he is not a surprise to you or I, because he's worked his tail off. That doesn't mean he's going to beat Connor Tollefson off, but he's competing for the number 2 spot as a true freshman. Yeah. And how does that happen, JP? It happens by training. It happens by staying dedicated to his lifting program. It's a mindset. It's support from his parents. It's all of it. And you know what? He expects to do it. I don't think he's surprised by it.
No, not at all.
But I do think it's really interesting that the cop out is, oh, well, he was just a good athlete. And what's funny is that same guy, that same style of coach, in their mind, the reason why they're not winning is because they don't have good athletes, right? And that is a mindset versus, we'll spend time and develop your guys. How about that? How about you open your horizons and figure out what other coaches are doing to develop their guys? Why not, partner with someone like us? I mean, I had a guy years ago told me, he goes, best investment for my team in the offseason is to spend time in the early winter months is training with you guys. So it's stuff I don't need to mess with early, and when we get going in the summer.
Absolutely.
And versus fighting it when a kid wants. Look, not every kid wants to get better. Let's be truthful. It's a 5 to 6% of the kids actually want to do it and get better. And so if you find those guys, you embrace that, you support that. They're not doing something that's disrespectful. And I've told this to coaches for years. Look, if they want to play high school football, they can play high school football at your school. They have to. Like if they go to your school, they have to play for you. They do not need to come to see us at Elite. They don't. And they want to get better, come see us and we can work it together. And I think to me, that's the beauty of it, right? And I don't understand that mindset of, oh, you want to get better? Well, we're not going to do anything for you, but we're going to tell you we do and then get pissed at you if you go do something else. I mean, like you only get 4 years of high school football, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just a firm believer that you take the advantage of what you can get and do the best you can with it. And so, but yeah, that's part of the offseason regimen is getting guys ready to go and get their mentality right and getting them understanding that they are prepared and there's going to be challenges in the season, but getting them to understand that they're making headway in the offseason so that this season ahead will be better than last year. And I think you and I both look at guys, and I know you want to see people improve from one year to the next, right? I mean, that is the telltale sign that progress is being made, because how many kids have you seen that were unreal freshmen and sophomore and then stagnate junior and senior year? That's
happens all the time.
Alarm bells, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then, so what do you do in that scenario, right? You're not writing glowing reports for them. It's not going into your report. You're not talking to colleges about them.
No, I'm not giving them 5 stars because they had a good freshman season. Which is what fan sites do. Which is why you gotta. It also helps to see them in person, right? As opposed to just looking up their stats. And for some guys will just like look across the state or the region and look up a guy's stats. Oh, this guy played as a freshman. Oh, he had this many tackles, whatever. Oh, he's going to be a top 50 guy in the state, whatever, at his position. A lot of that stuff goes on. And then when this guy doesn't pan out, people are shocked. Well,
Yes.
That's because, people are just going by what they hear or what they've seen clips on, or his social media is really good, right? You got a lot of that now. Oh man, he's got great social media.
Man.
He's got great. He's got to be the guy.
Who are you recruiting? That him or that it's like the Instagram model, that's got the perfect face and all that stuff and everything that's perfect. And then you see him and you're like, oh, they look different.
There's a lot of filters there.
There's a lot of filters on and trickery going on in kids' social media. I mean, you see kids, and so you get it with coaches on social media. There's a lot of guys that front. And run, have really good content for the algorithm. So, they're playing the game. It is what it is, but they're not probably the most astute coaches, which that's good for them. Same things happen with athletes. You have guys that really know how to run the game when it comes to producing content and putting out there what people like or have big followings. And then they turn around and they're bums. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but they are not. They are the Instagram model that you walk up to and you realize, like, oh my gosh, that is a totally different person, or it's a catfish scenario, right?
Yeah, 100%. Same thing with people's huddle video. You can't judge their huddle video because everybody looks. I have seen actually some bad huddle videos, but most guys, know to put their best plays, right?
And too, what's a cool practice? I know you do this. You go to that last, like when you know that there's a dude, you watch the beginning stages, right? But then go towards the end and see what those highlights look like. If there's still highlights, and I'll tell people, to me, one of the best highlight films there is. Now it's not Huddle. If you're in for watching something fun, Google Lee Ward, Lee, and then last name Ward, Ward.
Parkway Central.
Yeah, Parkway Central.
Yeah.
When he was at Stanford, he was playing fullback. Okay. And his highlight film, quite possibly for a fullback, might be one of the last ever produced where it was a fullback just knocking the teeth out of people's
Oh
heads.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It is literally, I kid you not, the first 20 plays, people are flat back. He's pancaking people. And then he's like running people off the sideline. I mean, it is unbelievable. But you go beginning to end, the beginning's just as good as the end. The end's just as good as the beginning. That's when you know you got a baller, right? And so he was a special athlete. He was running back and all that stuff. Ended up
linebacker,
playing short time with the Panthers in the NFL, and then took a job in the investment banking world because he's smart. And he went to Stanford and doing really well.
He was a monster in high school. He looked like Brock Lesnar. He was like
monster.
Yeah, just that developed.
And then highly intelligent. But those are the kids that are really cool.
Good kid.
Oddly enough, years ago, we were in talks with a company that was looking at our flag football business and how we did it. And he calls me. He saw my name on a list or something. And he's like, oh, my God. So he had just gotten hired on with this investment banking firm. And so that's what he does. And so he's doing really well for himself. But violent. I mean, violent, but top to bottom. Then you see other kids where the first 20 plays, first 5 are good. Next 5 are okay. Next 5 after that aren't real good. Or you see the guy and it's the same play over and over and over with just different games. And you're like, that's
or different angles, a sideline shot, an overhead shot, an end zone shot, same play, right?
Yeah,
same 5 plays.
Come on, man. We weren't that dumb. So, so kids just got to be wary of that as well, too. Like, what are you putting out there? But if you're, again, if you only get inside runs and you're a running back, that's what you got to put on your highlight film. If you're a quarterback and they only roll you out, that's what you got to put on your highlight film. But, you got to make the best of what they give you. And, hopefully it works out for the guys that, are one-trick ponies because, you get to college, you have to have a multitude of skills that are adaptable to what they need you to do.
You really do. This is why I like to, my eyes from the sideline never lie about a guy, right? Because you get to see everything that goes down. You get to see what he does heading into the huddle. You get to see how he lines up, what his movements are like, what his demeanor is, how does he run up to the line, all of that stuff besides the play. And you get to see every play. You get to see whether he's a guy who takes plays off, which, so there's a lot of guys who look like superstars who take a lot of plays off, right? But their highlights, man, they're going, right? Balls out. But
guys that are bitching at their teammates on the sideline.
Oh, that's the worst. Or their coaches, it's like, man, we always say, you never know who's watching you. You see that stuff, how they treat their teammates. You're 100% right. That really, I make mental notes on all that stuff.
Yep.
And that all goes into it.
JP, here's the crazy thing. We understand context. Like, yeah, sure, something can happen in a game, but there is a certain demeanor with certain athletes and how they talk to their coaches, how they talk to their teammates, how they and you've seen this, and you've watched it at high school games. And again, I saw some maturity level, but the number of kids that are purely playing up to the crowd, or they think. And the truth of the matter is, no one in that crowd gives a crap. Most of those people aren't even watching the game. But you'll see kids faking stuff, or say they fumble, they come off the field, they're acting like they're hurt, and they're basically looking up to the crowd for sympathy. And it's like, one,
asking for flags to be thrown. Yeah,
who cares? But there's so much of that, and I think that plays into some of the social media stuff that I feel bad for a lot of the kids because that's not reality. Yes, it is reality on social media, and some of that stuff can turn into good deals for kids, but it's few and far between, right? I mean, you got to be really good, and you got to dedicate your life to something. Do you want to dedicate your life to getting clicks, or do you want to dedicate to your life to getting better at your mechanics, better at your skills, better at your understanding of the game, all that stuff? I choose the latter.
Right. Right. No, the most interesting thing I ever saw being on the sideline was a player get in an argument with his coach, take his helmet off, throw it, and quit right there on the sideline. Left, and then messaged me later on, want to know if I could help him, get more attention from colleges. And I'm like, he didn't know I was there, but it's like, that sort of thing. Why on earth would I, want to go out on a limb for you when you just did that little scene and quit your team?
Yeah.
And it's like people don't realize that all of that matters. And, if you, it all matters. Real quick, back to when I was talking about the mental aspect. What I was trying to find out from you also was, do you hire guys like that, or is that something that you preach your trainers at Elite to teach the mental? Or do you just surround yourself with like-minded guys like that?
We do. That's what I would say. I think key to success is one, we've been doing it for so long. A lot of those guys came up in our system. And so that side of it, JP, is a big component because the mental aspect and how you treat people, how you coach people, how you build relationships with people. I think a lot of that, it just stems from just the atmosphere and the culture that we've built over those years because, we're not just there just to coach. We're not just there to, make money as some people would think. There is a higher purpose. I view it as a mission, always have. And we've been rewarded over the years by growth, not a lot of it because of our own, promotion and stuff like that. We've just grown because when you do things the right way, one, it attracts the right people to bring in to help coach, right? I mean, I look at our running back coaches right now. We have, two professional players, Kevon Latulis with the Battlehawks and Devin Darrington with the Arlington Renegades. He was with the Orlando Guardians, but he played at Harvard, played at Virginia, and then Kevon Latulis played at Missouri State, and then we have Zach Abron played Mizzou, played in the NFL, and then Darius Morrison played at Missouri Baptist. All four guys have a mentality of mentorship and teaching, right? All four guys have had that influence in their life, right? And so I think that, the mental makeup is one, they've been there, they've done that, right? All of our guys have played and, played at a high level and competed and then tried to compete afterwards of the vast majority. But I think that mental makeup is one, learning from our own mistakes as coaches, doing things we wish we would have done when we were players and educating those younger guys on those pitfalls. And then also, if you've coached long enough, educating on the pitfalls of others that you've seen, right? And we know, Lord knows, there's many of them. So, getting back to like how we bring those guys in, we talk about it. I think a lot of it stems from how people see the senior coaches like myself, Jamie Pond, Marcus Snozik, how we carry ourselves with athletes. We've been doing it a long time, and I think that's the beauty of it is everybody has their own coaching style, but their motive. And I go back to this, like when you're dealing with, I don't care if it's baseball, soccer, lacrosse, hockey, whatever it might be, the coach's motive is the number one reason they're going to be successful or not successful in the game. And if it's selfish, if it's about you, you're going to be found out, and eventually you're going to flush yourself out of the system. It has happened over and over and over. Like when I see people online talking about it's about the kids and that they're telling people that they're mentors and if you're a mentor, you're a mentor, right? You don't need to tell people. You don't need to be in your bio. Like you're either doing it or you're not. Either you're a good person or you're not a good person, right? You do the right things. If people knew half the stories that walked into our building that are not the most fun, right? And but we fill a void for people. And I think in certain times in their life, whether that's a player that's in between teams, whether that's a player that's lost a parent, whether that's a player whose parents might not have jobs, whatever it might be, or it's a player that's come back from an injury. There's a lot of things that just go on in just life in general that as a coach, you can help people. And I think that mentality of, stewardship and companionship and teaching goes a long way, because once those people trust you, the skill stuff is easy, right? When you know what you're talking about, it's easy.
Well, anybody can do the skill stuff. Anybody can say, oh, okay, do this, put your hand placement, this. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I bring up the mental aspect of it, because, and it's something that the players themselves might not even notice, or parents who are there might not notice, but I notice it, right? Because I know what goes into it, and I know, I think that translates. A lot of these guys that we talk about, whether it's Nice or whether it's Cody or whether it's Brady, a lot of these guys are the guys coming up. That really is played into their development.
Heck yeah.
And it's never really mentioned. And that also goes to the part where you say, oh, well, they're a good athlete, they could just do it, whatever. No, it's the totality, right? Of the skills training, the teaching, the physical aspect, but especially the mental. And
Yes.
like I said, I don't even know if the players realize it, but I see it. That's what I do. I'm observer of everything football.
Yeah,
And
you hear
so
the conversations going on, right? You hear the intimate side of it, which is, to
I
me,
do.
is the coolest part. And I think what's interesting too is the parents that get it.
Yes.
It's another way to allow the village to help mold your child. And you got to earn trust with people. You can't just be the person out there, beating your chest and doing that. You have to, the proof's in the pudding, right? And parents, are very protective of their children, as they should be. And you want them around good people. Like, I personally, my son, he trains, right? Obviously in our facility, he's in 8th grade. And I love the fact that he's around other people that are not me, right? And I coach him, obviously, but not as much as you would think. I coach him because he's still my son.
You critique him more than you coach him.
Right. And yeah, right.
Your dad more than you are. Yeah.
On the beach today, throwing together. So
there you go.
And again, I try to keep that still, fun loving, but also a little bit, creative with how I say things. But, being around other guys who are positive role models, who have my child's best interest, not because it's my child, because it's someone they're coaching. I just love the feedback that they give me about him. And sometimes it's not good, which is good. That's what you want to hear. You want to know. And so I do that with my kids. I mean, the number of parents that are out there, where I'm talking to the parent, and I like it because the kid also knows that they can't BS their parent. Like, hey, he said to do this. And then the kid's like, no, he didn't. And the dad's like, no, I heard him tell you that 1,000 times.
Right.
So there's things like that where just accountability, but it's also a unique time in their life, right? And so we're just an extension of the classroom. We're not trying to be all things to everybody, but the kids that we do work with, we want to take them to a higher level, not just as a football player, but as a human being. And I think that, believe me, I think all of us could have used that when we were kids. I would have loved to have had that. I mean, I was searching it out. We talked about, I was going to camps and, writing notes down about things that I should be doing and drills and things like that, ended up being how I got into what I'm doing today. And I think that's the other cool thing is how many guys we've had go through our program that are now coaches. I think that speaks volumes about what we do and how we do it. I think it's emblematic of what we've created. And JP, to be honest with you, a lot of it is just because of the motive at the very beginning was never about social media. It was never about beating our chest. It was never about any of that. We did it in silence. No one even knew what the hell we were doing back then, right? I mean, and so it is interesting now that we're in an environment where, anybody just can put out a website or pop up and do it. I come from the era of when we made our first website. We had used to have something that would monitor our site. It was very primitive, but we would have people rip us off once to twice a week. About 5 years in, it started happening. We used to have literally people would copy our website because that was what they wanted to do. So they would just steal our website, right? And it just showed me back then we were on the right path. That we were doing the right thing, and the website's the least of our worries, right? Like, are we doing what we're supposed to do for our athletes? And the only way you win in this game is by having kids get better and feel more confident and perform when they get on the field. I mean, you want them to come back. Like, we had one of our young kids who's been an offensive lineman, high school, middle schooler, and he spent all off season with us. And I was training a kid the other day. His brothers coached this team, and they're like, "Oh my God, this kid came back to the team, and he's a different person. He lost weight, he moves better, and he's kicking the crap out of kids at practice." Well, guess what? He's been in here battling all off season with kids from around the area. No wonder he's going to get back to his team and be confident. He's a new person.
Exactly.
And to do that and help someone that's in middle school who will be in high school next year, it's unreal, right? And I think the naysayers would say to him and his dad, "Well, why would you even spend money on that? Why would you?" Well, they don't worry about spending money to go play baseball, go travel every weekend. They don't worry about spending thousands of dollars to play soccer. They don't worry about doing that for dance competitions. I mean, so why is it with football that the conversation is different? I don't understand it, because the yield for football, return on investment, is significant. It is significant, like from a scholarship perspective, NIL, and now, payments. Speaking of the payment thing, as we've talked about, it's going to keep getting uglier and uglier, because all these smaller schools are now starting to realize, like, hey, we are in a world of hurt, right? Because sports are not looking good for some of these other schools. How they're going to fund them, the expanded roster limits. I mean, it is going to be an absolute nightmare for smaller schools.
You're seeing a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots.
100%.
To where the have-nots are just going to eventually go away.
And the worst part is that the haves need to play the have-nots preseason. Otherwise, they're just going to bang and beat each other up. So
exactly,
that little model is going to get thrown on its head. So, but I did see there's more lawsuits coming. There's more angst in that world, right? And I think that the smaller schools are really upset. They feel like they had it pulled over their eyes, right? And so they're talking. Then group of five and mid majors, a group of five, and then the FBS or FCS schools are going to have like $500,000, $350 to $500,000 a year out of their budgets have to go to pay this lawsuit off that they had no part in at all, that they never reaped any benefit from. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds, and unfortunately, I don't think they're going to, they're screwed. They have to pay it. And by the way, they have to pay more money for scholarships now, more money for everything. And they're going to be competing against teams that have better budgets, and they have to pay, and they can pay their people. It's not setting up to be very pretty, and it's going to be a really seismic shift when it all takes place. And 5 years.
The saddest part about that is it's going to provide less opportunity to guys that want to play.
100%. And other sports are going to get screwed in the intro too. So I don't know how the outcome gets changed because the die has kind of been cast, like it's set, and like it is what it is. And I think the rich are going to get richer, and those that were already kind of on the ropes, that were depending upon these $500,000 games to fund their program for the year, it's a problem. I mean, it is a major problem. So I don't foresee it being a good ending. I mean, it's going to change a lot of things that we love about college sports in general, not just football. And so I think we're going to get a really good product on the top end for the football for the better teams.
As most pro sports are, a better product.
Yeah, we're going to get a better product. It's going to be more commercialized. It's going to be
more pro sports. More
made for TV. Yeah, and the kids are going to get the kids that are good enough to play at that level are going to make a ton of money. And then the guys that are a level right below that are going to be playing the game, the old game, if you will, right, the way it used to be. Yeah. And I think that's going to create a lot of dissension and a lot of issues in the game, and that we haven't even probably thought of. And so the fighting for coaches to get up to that top level, right, is going to be really, really crazy.
Yeah, it really is. This again, it's it's sad to think of what's going to be. We don't have to do it right now, but it really is a bummer to think about what it's going to be in 5-10 years from now.
Yeah. So hey, as we start getting into practices, will you be the next couple of weeks? Is that will be hot and heavy getting out on the road?
Oh yeah.
Going
Oh
to check-
yeah. It's funny. It's like, was down where you are in the Gulf last week, and really July was a kind of a big vacation because it's really, I mean, next week it's just slam city between, then and, January to stuff going on where I'm busy. I'm going to be on the road with everything. But yeah, practices across the state, um, seeing stuff, and then of course, I mean, it's coming up fast. You have the practices starting, and then you have the jamborees, and then boom, the season's just right upon us.
Yeah, I cannot believe the games. I mean, that they're starting school. I saw some teams down in this area already practicing. Now the thing is it is pretty wild. They take it pretty darn serious. I would say our football, in the sense of athlete-wise, athlete to athlete's probably as good, if not better, than most.
Without question.
With how they prepare
Yeah,
and how they staff, it's definitely a different ball game down south.
that's true.
It is definitely a different ball game, especially in the Georgias, the Alabamas, Louisiana, over to Texas. Florida's a little weird with how they staff and how they do things because they're transfer rules, but it's pretty serious business. I mean, you're looking at the Gulf Shores High School here. I think they're building a 120-yard indoor facility at their new high school.
Yeah.
You look at how their game day production, their staff is a bunch of ex Division I coaches.
Well, see, that's because they treat it as a business. As opposed to in Missouri, it's more of a volunteer.
Well, it's volunteer and
it's
a stipend. It's not probably paying for people's time.
You have to do it for the love. A lot of it's done for the love, as opposed to getting a good job down there in Texas, or like you say in Alabama, Georgia, specifically. I think
I always good, but I look at our area, and I think just the athletes that are produced and what we have in our area and our playing we get to play our part in it is exciting. But yeah, so you and I before the show were talking. So yesterday you had asked me about we had some kids go to First Form.
Yep.
Which for those who aren't familiar, First Form is a partner of ours. They're a major producer in the sports nutrition and supplementation, and then they do apparel, but they're based in St. Louis, right in Fenton, and we have a really good partnership with them. So what we do from time to time is we have a group of kids will go out to the facility. It's really more for them to get a feel of like something bigger than themselves, right? Like educate them to what these businesses look like. So First Form's really big into charity. They're really big into self-empowerment and building this brand through high-level employees that are empowered employees, that are people that are doing their jobs for a higher purpose, and they hold themselves accountable. They do a really good job. So in the tour, they take you around the facility. They show you some different facilities are world class. That they do in Haiti and how they fund it and how they support it as a company, and then they go through kind of like what they do with their individuals who educate people on nutrition and personal training, things like that in the health space. And then they kind of go through like what their history is. It's really neat for the kids to see. It's very eye-opening because all they do is they see the protein powder. They don't know what's behind and what that's the power of what that brand has created. And, for us locally, there's no better partner to have because, one, they can help our athletes and educate them and teach them what they should be using to fuel their body and things that they should be doing on and off the field. But then they're gracious enough to let our kids do the tour. They have an unbelievable weight room, JP. We got to get you out there. It is unbelievable. It's probably 20,000 square feet, right? And then they have a field in the back. So the kids went back there, got to run around, do some drills, just kind of, more than anything, get some pictures.
I was going to say, I saw some.
More of an experience than, we're not in there trying to go full tilt and do anything this close to the season. We're just in there for, having fun, getting some of the best talent in the area together.
I was going to say that's what I noticed.
And be around each other. It's not a bunch of guys from the same school. There's guys from all over. Herman.
Yeah, Dayton Hopkins was there from Herman.
Yeah. You got guys from Cardinal Ritter. You got guys from
Francis Howell Central. Jack Brown was there. Yeah.
Yeah, out in Wright City, Mason was there. So it's a pretty cool scenario when you get around other guys that are like-minded. And the guys that were there, they're all like-minded individuals. They're all guys that want to get better. They're all guys that work their butts off on the off season. So kind of a reward to them was, hey, let's go check this place out, like a field trip, if you will, right? And so I think, to me, those are the best types of deal. I had to miss it because I was out of town, but our coaches came back. They were charged up. They got to take the tour themselves, and our friends out there just could not be better partners. And I'm always wearing a First Form piece of clothing, or I take their supplements every day. I'll tell you, shameless plug, the Magnesium, I take it every night before I go to sleep. It's badass. I mean, it is obviously good for you, but it helps you get to sleep. It takes the edge off at night. It is. I would say been a game changer for me, and it tastes good on top of it. So, but it's stuff like that where you learn from those guys. They have their expertise. They're all athletes, former athletes that work there. So, but to have them as a partner and be able to reward our kids and let them go do that, experience, to me is pretty awesome. So
very cool.
They'll get pictures of themselves there so that they can use it for their social media. And it's well done. I mean, JP, they have professional photographers that are there taking pictures, just really neat stuff, right? And, just they get to sample some of their products and see what it's like and see what they're all about. And what the other thing is that's cool about them, and I've respected it since day one, they do not push anything on anybody. It is an education, hey, about how much protein you should be taking, not their protein, how much protein you should be intaking through eating. And then if you can't eat it, then you supplement, right? Or if you want a snack, what kind of snacks you want to take, and use your calories wisely, right? And eat good stuff, eat whole foods, eat processed crap, get that out of the way. You'll be done with that. You'll get rid of it and eat the things that are really good and efficient, right? And then if you can't get that in your system, then here's an excellent way to supplement and with clean quality products that are safe for athletes. So
very cool. Very
awesome, man.
Stuff.
Next time that the crew goes, I'm going to definitely make sure you're there, because I think you would really get a kick out of it. They have a barber shop. They have a full auditorium. It's like as big as any auditorium you've ever seen at a college program. It's like seats like 250.
Nice.
They have a game room. It's
its own city. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's great to see that people in our city have had success doing it too.
All right, very cool. Appreciate you taking the time out of your vacation schedule to do this.
Well, hey,
I know you're that dedicated.
Any longer, I would be so sunburned. Did you get sunburned?
You want to know what? I don't burn. And a lot of people hate that. My tan looks great though. I don't know if you
I do, JP. I'm trying to even my farmer's tan out from being out in the sun this summer.
There you go.
It's going to be a little bit of a task, I can tell you that.
There you go. Enjoy it though. I know that the beach can get tiresome though.
Well, it was good to have a break and get to come talk to you, and hopefully people got something out of the show today.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. And man, next week it all really kicks off. So we're going to have a lot to talk about going forward from here on out as football season really gets into full swing. So, Joe, if you want to go ahead and put up our things, you want to tell people where they can reach you at, Matt, where they can follow you?
Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram. And then football360show.com has all the updated shows. And we get some pretty good traffic there, JP, believe it or not. I'm excited by seeing the number of people that go to it, and that's where they access the show. So it's good to see that.
And of course, the audio versions of this can be found on Apple and Spotify. My social media stuff is on the screen right there. Football360show.com. I'm JP Rock. He is Matt Bierman. We will talk to you next week. Everybody stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.